Welcome to Anything But Sports Podcast.
Yay!
Or ABS if you don't have the time to say it out, the full name. I am your main primary better host, Sawyer.
And I'm your secondary, very tired host, John. And today we have
Our even sleepier guest,
Hi.
Austin Rapp.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Excited.
So my first question for you is, how difficult for you was it to not name your production companies That's a Wrap Productions?
It was really difficult.
Yeah.
We thought about it. But you gotta put it on like a sticker and a t-shirt and a business card, and it needs to be small. Otherwise, it's too long and it doesn't fit right.
Oh, you weren't just tempted by the pun?
Mm-hmm.
Are you a pun guy?
Yes.
this doesn't make sense.
Why did this one invade your temptation?
I don't know. I actually did think about it, and I was like, no. Just instantly, no. I'm okay with that.
Austin, I know nothing about you.
Yeah.
I've met you maybe twice in
Two or
passing.
3 times, just briefly, yeah.
So I want to know everything there is to know about Austin.
Okay. I am 29. I'll be 30 this year, and I'm just like, ooh,
Big
that'll be
number.
fun, yeah. I am an Atlanta native. I was born in California, but I did not grow up out there at all. Definitely an East Coast guy. I have been photographing, I think, professionally for probably about 16 or 17 years now for a good while, and I really enjoy it. It is a wonderful job, and I get to work with cool people. That's how we met Sawyer and John, how we were connected. And I'm a guy in his 20s who's trying to be healthy and be doing what he loves, the job thing, and having fun doing it.
Well, speaking of being healthy, you run, don't you?
I do.
So talk about that a little bit. Are you training for something right now?
I am, yeah. So in college, I started running after I got out of playing tennis. Actually, my parents were both professional tennis players, and
Oh, wow.
I did that for just a very, very long time growing up, and I ended up getting out of it as, I think I was like 16 or something, and my dad got me a guitar and a camera in the same year as like a birthday thing. It was like both very, very
Nice.
cheap. It was like
Yeah.
a cheap Target $40 starter, like junky guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and then equally cheap, like kind of point and shooty, kind of not super zoomy digital, whatever. And I immediately went down that route and really enjoyed it. But when I got into school, I ended up wanting to get back outside and just be outside because I had a lot of time. I love being outdoors. Started running, and I think back then I look at it enviously because I had so much free time that I was really able to just like focus on one specific thing, and that's kind of how my brain works a little bit. Yeah, we got really deep into running and did some long runs, and one of them was on the Georgia section of the Appalachian Trail.
Wow.
Moving into the North Carolina section, it was a 26-mile run I did, I think, shortly after I graduated, and that was like a big culmination thing. And so I am turning 30 this year, and I'm going to retrace that route and add a few more miles to make it a 50K, which is a 30-mile run. One for each year, just some stupid little thing that I like to do. But it's fun to set a very long goal like that, an equally abstract goal that's not like a sanctioned race. It's not going to be super chip time. It's just going to be me with a smartwatch, and then like my family kind of helping me, move through that. I enjoy running. It's something that's good for the brain. It helps me in other ways too.
Well, let me ask you this. What are you passionate about, either within, inside, or outside your career?
Pictures. I'm very passionate about pictures. They're important and they matter. Education and helping people understand not just like technical information, and not just in photography either. Just I like learning from people. I've always liked learning. I loved school. I just didn't like the American school system because it wasn't really super good. But just learning from different aspects about so many different things is just really cool, and I think it enriches life. I think travel's like that too. But I have a big passion for education and helping people not just learn something that I think is correct, but just being surrounded by people who think differently and who are different than you. I think I just really recently figured out that I thought that way. Like before it was I'm right and I like my bubble of people who are like me kind of thing, right? I think many people just naturally gravitate towards that thought. I don't know. I just was like, you should be more open-minded and learn things and just be open to learning. And maybe like a couple things, like you grow up in a very conservative part of the country and you leave that to go to college and kind of educate yourself and form your own personal worldview and all these different things, right? And at that time, there was a really big cross section with my faith as a Christian, and kind of, again, just coming out of that conservative thing and all of the things that come with that from like religion and Christianity and how the South is just culturally speaking, being away from that and kind of just figuring everything out all happened at once, like it does in college.
Just to end out this thought, when did you make that switch? At what point was that in college when you were like, you know what, I want to be surrounded with different thoughts?
No, it was probably a few years ago. Like coming out and just like getting into the world and seeing it professionally and work-wise and relationship-wise and travel-wise, and just kind of being more open to things.
So you mentioned religion, and so one of my questions for you is, how is religion and your career intertwined? And does your religion help guide you in any career or creative decisions, and if so, how?
You used the word intertwined, and I think that's a really cool one to latch onto. I think they're really closely intertwined. Much of my photographic success, which is stupid to say that, but like when I started, I just started doing it, you know, as an artsy kind of thing, and I did it for a long time. And eventually, when I started taking it to try and make it into a career, was around college, where I started getting pretty serious and started emailing out to different. I was very, very outdoorsy. I was very into running, and so much of those interests were very outdoor focused on like gear and products and stuff like that to help me get outside more. And so I would just write out a generic enough email and run it into a program, get every single marketing person from every outdoor company into Excel, and just make an email campaign and just sent it to everybody, right? And just slowly started churning that out. And around that time, I was kind of going through the whole faith, realizing as an adult, is this the way I grew up faith, or is this actually faith that it's mine? And I picked the latter. It is my own, and that all happened at the same time, where I wanted to get plugged into a church, and I had gone to a church in Atlanta, very large church called Passion City Church in Atlanta, and started serving with them, just on getting on board. Eventually, they are a very creative organization. They have a lot of need for content and pictures and video and all kinds of things. Started serving on the team, and then I think 4 or 5 years later, maybe a little bit longer, started getting more involved, and they helped me grow in a way I didn't expect, in the sense of the faith and how it translates creatively speaking, and just the operational level at which things should be. And so they set the bar for the second thing, right? So like the way that the team works is just extremely fast, extremely good all of the time. That's it. And that is such a high bar that I never really came into, because I was just out there derping around with trail stuff, going on the AT, going on runs and stuff like that. And so it's just all kind of like for like, you know, fun, pretty much. And then seeing it really, really professional, and being in the space of like super beginner to then kind of beginning to grow and see that. It was really good technically, because it's just a very fast-paced environment where you get to get really good really quickly by just doing the same kind of thing in a bunch of different ways over and over and over and over. And then from there, I started just seeing it grow and grow and grow. And the being so black or white and just being so dialed in on one core focus of pictures, like that is it. It's all I want to focus on. That, and just growing that, and for X amount of time, 10 odd years now, I've been doing that really, really intensely, while still serving on that team, has grown and grown and grown. And now we're in a really cool place where I'm able to help lead a team and be on a group of people who help lead like 40, 50 or so people, and develop them creatively and develop them technically, and do like workshops and classes and artist talks and stuff like that. I was really, really passionate about the education side of photography. On the flip side of that is the concept of stewardship really, really helped grow from being involved in an organization like that, from a faith way of I'm tithing my time is kind of how I view it, and the time to like invest in other people and use those for a benefit that is beyond my own. I think that core thought really just, I let it go all over everything else, because the industry can be really, really weird, and people can be really, really aggressive and just rude and just very big egos, especially other photographers. Like, it's just kind of an accepted part of creative culture, especially, I think, photography specifically. I'm sure the video scene in Hollywood and all that is crazy the same. But at least with photos, it's very usually male-dominated industry with huge egos and other similar characteristics of people, right? And not working in that and not wanting to be that, especially when seeing that be illustrated like all through growing up, was really important. And just being a person that loves people and being a good steward of their time and their trust and all these things, and then combining I'm wanting to not just talk about the shoot, but like, let's sit down the next 3 to 4 years, like, what are your internal goals, and let's see how we can creatively address those and go beyond that. And then when you actually go execute, just blow it out of the water every single time. Like, that really, really, really good every single time is how I want to do everything all the time.
So do you think working at the rental house has satiated your parents? Like, are they...
I don't think they know what I do, actually. I still, to this day, it's just like, so what exactly do you do? Like, where is your office? Like, yeah, they don't really, that's what they say. They're like, really? Like, who is it? Wow, that's cool. And I drove over to their house to get some stuff I left over after Christmas. And I had a bunch of equipment in the back for a shoot that I was doing the next day. And they just kind of stood out there and looked in the hatch like, so what's that thing? And I'm like, that's called a C stand. Like, why a C? And I'm like, it's the name of the stand. They're like, what do you use it for? I'm like, holds the light up. They're like, okay. Like, that's kind of like no one in my family was creative. Zero. I mean, these are vanilla type brains. They are creative, but they just never did anything, you know?
No.
Everyone's creative. But it's fun to watch them just be like, cool. And now at this point, they're like, he's happy. He's doing fine. Like, okay, cool. Like,
well, let me ask you this. So, you really like the situation you're in. You feel like you have the stability, but then also the freedom to do creative things.
Yes.
So what would you say to someone who is creative, wants to be creative in a career, maybe wants to be more creative than they currently are, but they have to get the day job?
I think I'd listen to them more. Like, I don't want to tell people what to do without hearing what they are, currently going through and what their goals are and all that kind of stuff. So I'd want to sit down and understand that more. Because everyone has their own goals and everyone has their own definitions of goals and success and all those things, right? And different ways to reach them. You can skin a cat a lot of different ways. Like, you can go about it multiple different ways, right? And what I do doesn't necessarily work for other people, and what other people necessarily do doesn't work for me, So I would just sit down and hang out and listen and just support them, and maybe here or there give like a plug of my own experience of like, hey, this might be useful for you. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. There isn't a way to do it. Everyone can get on MailChimp and start emailing folks. Like, it's not that hard. And see where it goes. And if it's something you enjoy doing and you start being successful, however you want to call it, then cool, keep going. Let it grow. It's like a seeds. It takes a lot of time. And sometimes the sun kills them all. And they all just wither up and dry, like COVID. And that was fun. Remember that? It's just like everything's gone.
Everyone's dreams disappear.
Yep. all those plans we had for 2020 just gone.
What is a memorable piece of good advice that you have taken and a piece of bad advice that you have chosen to ignore?
There's a photographer. His name is William Albert Allard. He is out west. He's an older guy. He's still alive. He photographed a lot of the American West and cowboy culture. And he gave me an email one day when I actually know it was a DM on Instagram. Dude's on Instagram. Or his family is, and he responds. But he's a really, really great photographer. He's kind of old, so I was surprised that he DM'd me back. That was really cool. It was actually him. It's like his real deal account. And I just asked him some questions about stuff, and he came back with a book novel. And one of the things he said was access and acceptance was these two words that he used that really stuck to me. And I asked him, how did you get these people to let their guard down? Because if you look at his work, and I would encourage you guys and anyone listening to, William Albert Allard did a lot of very close-up documentary work on cowboy culture in a time in a part of the United States that really wasn't like shown a lot. Is like late 80s, early 90s, out west, like all different parts of really rural, think Yellowstone type, rough and tough dudes who were, just out there and been out there for a long time. And the pictures are very, very close. They're very thematic. They're often very like honest, and there's like unflattering things, but not necessarily in a bad way. Just it's showing the real life of having to brand a horse, and he's like right up there, and it's sad because the horse is like hurting, like, but the cow, like, they're all like perfectly framed up, and it looks like a really tight composition, but also there's a lot going on, so it's dynamic. Really, really cool pictures, and you have to get insanely close and be so almost like you can reach out and touch people to make pictures like that. Mm-hmm. But they're really good. And so I asked him how he did it. And he said access and acceptance. He said when you can get access, that leads to good work. And if you can get acceptance by those people who gave you access, that's when the great work happens. And it's a matter of like when you go into a shoot, he always taught me or told me, don't just go in and start out and start working. Like just walk up and just start talking to people and starting to shake hands and getting to know them and gaining that access and working with these subjects you're documenting and letting them know that you're here for them and telling them what you're doing and all these kinds of things. And then as they give you access, you can then just kind of do your thing and slowly get more accepted. And at the end of the time, you aren't even noticed and people don't even mind, and they're just living in those little human moments that you constantly see. And you see them with your eyes all the time. People recognize little things. You call it people watching, right? Like that's what that is. And you just wait for things to line up, and you can predict human behavior and just watch people, and it's this really, really interesting stuff. And as you do that, you can start taking pictures, and it's a lot easier to work that way rather than rolling up with like a big kit or big long lens and try and get it from far away or be a fly on the wall. Like, I don't want to be a fly on the wall. I want to be another person who's just in the crowd who's talking to people, right?
I think we've been beating around the bush. This one question this
Lay it
entire
up, man.
time.
Yeah.
Austin, how do you define success?
Success is subjective. I think everyone looks at it differently. Everyone has different goalposts, if they want to call them that, or worldviews or goals or whatever. I think for me, at the end of the day, I just want to help people and be creative. Like, that was the OG goal from when I was a kid. And I was in my stupid little room, my stupid little cameras, taking pictures of little Candle doing this at midnight, and I'm just watching it go, and I'm like just watching the flame, and I'm like, it's different every time. And so you start playing with it, and like you just kind of like look at little things like that, and then you're like, that's cool. Money's important, of course. You need to have a place for you and your family in this crazy world, right? I think the monetary side of it has always been secondary. It's always going to be, at least it should. It's fun to, and that's like a whole other topic too, is when you start actually making money, like kind of like adult money, just off pictures, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, and then you're like, I want more, and then it's never enough, and then you have to just balance that whole side of the brain and the scale of being a freelancer. You can be untapped completely and just 80 hours a week, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. just constantly, or whatever. And balancing that healthily is a whole other conversation. But I think finding that balance and then just doing what you like to do. For me, it was being creative and helping people. And I think that's success. Being able to do that as long as I can is the goal. Like, I want to be, hopefully, 70, 80 years old and just walking around taking little stupid pictures of people at the park or
candles.
Yeah, birds, candles, whatever.
So based on your own definition that you just gave us,
Mm-hmm.
and based on the description of the job that you currently have
Mm-hmm.
and the way that you talked about it, I would say, my hypothesis would be that by your own definition, you are successful. But earlier in this conversation, you said, I am definitely not successful.
Mm-hmm. It's a great point.
Where are these two viewpoints coming from in your mind?
Your left brain, right brain. One part of my brain's happy because it gets to do what it wants to do, and the other part of my brain's like, this isn't enough. You need to do more. Be better, constantly, better, always.
So what's the truth?
Well, that's the thing, is I feel like they're simultaneous. I feel like that is the truth, is they're both constantly doing that, and I'm trying to figure out the best, like the scale is constantly doing that, right? I think trying to use them together is what I've been lately, at least. I've like figured out, like, okay, if these are both not going to stop, then let's just try and then combine them and be, like I said, like constantly improving, constantly polishing, constantly be better. But also you create yourself to be unhappy too, because you're never good enough, and that's a whole other conversation, right? I might be turning 30 this year. I'm not 30 yet. Like, and even when I will be, we've got a lot of time left. Like, let's keep going. Like, what else are we gonna do? This isn't it. Like, there's way more left to do. There's way more coming, and I know that because that goal of just abstract goal setting. And I think running is one of those things that the reason I like it is simple, two-part. It's fun, it's good for you. It's also good for my health, mentally speaking. But also I think it's just good for people to feel adversity, especially in this time.
If you could sum up this entire conversation into one word, what would that word be?
Focus. Being focused on setting a goal, whether it's an abstract goal or a binary A to B simple goal, is in stringing A to B simple goals together to then reach an abstract goal. Having that focus, being able to stick with something for a very long period of time and understand that you aren't going to be anywhere proficient at this for many years, and then eventually finally reaching mild proficiency and being a good steward of that and trying to continue to improve focus.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time here today. We really enjoyed having you on the big show.
Abs.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. That was fun.
All right. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.